Couldn't believe it when one of my academy members just mentioned in passing, like really casually, oh, by the way, I've just paid off my mortgage. And then she was on to the next topic to ask me a question about business strategy. And I just had to stop and go, hang on a minute. And I realized that's what aligning with abundance looks like. Because when continual expansion starts feeling totally normal, paying off your mortgage is like no big deal. It's what you expect. And that's how you know that you've rewired your money story. And this is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome back to The Shift. This is a special series here on the Freedom and Ease and Online Business podcast, where I walk you through the exact process for going from trading your hours for dollars to building real leveraged income in your online service business. I'm your host, Miriam Castilla, money and business strategist, and this is episode 5. If you're just stumbling across this now, please go back and start at episode 1 because otherwise you might be slightly confused. All right, let's get into it. So in the last episode, I promised to start diving into the first of the power cores we've been talking about and show you why your relationship with money has been quietly running your business in the background. So let me start by asking you a couple of questions. Have you ever made really good money one month and then somehow it just disappeared and you felt like you had absolutely nothing to show for it? Or have you ever felt that little clench in your stomach when you thought about raising your prices or sending an invoice, or maybe before checking your bank balance? Ever landed a big client or contract and instantly thought, oh, okay, but what if that doesn't happen again? So none of that is a personality quirk. None of it is just who you are or how you are. It's your money story expressing itself, and it's been running in the background since before you can remember. But today we're going to start looking at it properly. So welcome to the first core of the effectology method integration process, also known as the magnetic money code. So here's what no one tells you about your relationship with money. You've got one. Everyone does. It was formed decades ago, long before you started your business, by watching your parents, absorbing the culture and hearing the things you were being told around you. And, it's stuff like money doesn't grow on trees, we can't afford that, people like us don't, XYZ, don't be greedy. And all that programming, it just kind of sits there deep in your unconscious, but it's responsible for decisions that you make and reactions that you have every single day. It decides what you feel comfortable charging. It decides how you feel about money coming in, because some people feel really, really uncomfortable when money comes in, and that's why they spend it fast. It decides whether you play big or whether you like to hedge your bets. It decides what feels normal for you financially. And that last one's the kicker, because your money story kind of has a thermostat, a set point, a level of income and wealth that feels normal and safe, and anything above it or below it feels uncomfortable. And anything way too far above it feels like it's too good to last. Sound familiar? So what happens when your business starts to outgrow that financial comfort set point? Well, that old story will pull you right back down. Not consciously, not always loudly or obviously, quietly, through undercharging, procrastinating, over-delivering, sabotaging in all sorts of ways. Sometimes people just get sick in the middle of a launch every single time. Or money vanishes just as quickly as it arrives. So, I've had to work on this quite a lot. At one stage, I was a broke single mum. I literally had to move out of my house and move into a smaller place that I could afford while I was building my finance business. I sold things from catalogs for a while. I was delivering those catalogs that end up on your doorstep just to make an extra $100 a week. And at the time, that was my normal. It was just, stress every week. Can I pay the rent? Can I feed the kids? How are we going to pay the bills? But then even as my income started growing and my new business started doing well, that old story kept coming back. Don't get comfortable, this could all disappear. And money would come in, but it would just vanish again overnight. So I really had to rewrite that story deliberately, layer by layer, because no strategy in the world could out-earn that set point that said, Women like us, single mums, well, we're lucky to just get by. We have to work hard. We have to wear ourselves out. So I want you to remember that you can't build leveraged income on a money story that says wealth isn't safe or isn't normal or isn't for you. You can try, but it gets frustrating and tiring pretty quickly. That's kind of what that revolving door we've talked about looks like. So what does it look like when the story changes? So I have a really great story on that, because I remember when one of our Academy members mentioned to me, almost in passing, like mid-conversation, we were talking about a business strategy, that, oh yeah, and by the way, I've just paid off the mortgage. Paid off her mortgage. When she joined the Academy, when I first met her, her mortgage was the biggest stressor in her life. And there she was, like, just paid off my mortgage, by the way, blah, blah, blah. And it was just like an aside. And she was ready to talk about what the actual problem at the moment was. And I had to just go, hang on. Can we just stop and acknowledge what you just said? That's a big deal. We need to acknowledge that you have shifted monumentally. And the thing is, she wasn't being modest. She wasn't like downplaying it. It was just that her relationship with money had genuinely shifted so much where paying off the mortgage just felt like, yeah, of course, like it just felt normal. And that's what I'm talking about here. This is not about improving your relationship with money so you can get by. It's about truly aligning with abundance, because abundance by its very nature is constantly expanding. That's what the universe is all about. Everything's always growing and expanding. Trees don't apologize for another season of growth. The ocean doesn't cap itself at enough. And when you align with that energy, when continual expansion becomes your normal, you stop white-knuckling your way to enough and start being genuinely comfortable and expectant of having more than enough. And that's what having a wealth mindset is all about. It's not about scraping across the finish line every month. It's about being truly comfortable and having continual expansion and growth feel normal, natural. And a woman aligned with abundance builds a completely different business. She charges differently. She has different conversations. She invests differently. She holds her boundaries differently. And she shows up differently for her marketing. She's not chasing money. She's magnetic to it. And what most people miss is that the alignment, it doesn't come just from mindset work. It also comes from money confidence. And that's why I bang on and on about marrying the magical with the practical, because you need to have confidence in managing the money. Otherwise, that's a mindset block. The money story and the systems to back it, you need both, because you can't just affirm your way to feeling safe with money if you don't actually know what you're going to do with it when it arrives, if you feel uncomfortable. And you can't spreadsheet your way to abundance either if you've got an old money story running the show that says it's never going to be enough or money doesn't grow on trees. So money mindset and money management, they can't exist in isolation of each other. They don't. And that's the whole point of the magnetic money code. They work together as one. And that is the difference with magnetic money. It is about more than just good money mindset. It's about having you become the person who is comfortable with and capable of both creating and holding wealth. That's a wealth mindset. And that's a whole different ball game. Now, if you've been thinking, hey, Miriam, I've done mindset work. I've got the journal. I've said the affirmations. Check out my vision board. Here's the difference. Most mindset work happens in isolation, right? It's a nice morning practice that never actually connects to your bank account, your pricing, or your business decisions. But inside the magnetic money code, the internal work is done as business infrastructure. It's specifically about rewiring that set point, the old programming that's been capping your income and your comfort level, and backing that new money story with practical money systems that make expansion feel safe and sustainable, and that mean you're actually set up for it on a true practical level. Because remember, back in episode 3, we talked about in a job, the system absorbs and kind of masks your old money stories. But in business, they are hanging out for everyone to see. So sorting this out isn't about personal growth. It's a business requirement that you really can't afford to skip. Every successful business owner you admire either has done this work very deliberately and often very persistently, or they got really lucky and did it accidentally. Most successful business owners at some stage realize they really need to get this right. And so do it. Do it deliberately. It's going to be your massive secret superpower. So here's your takeaways from today's episode. Your money story was written yonks ago, but it's kind of been making business decisions on your behalf. What you charge, how money flows, what feels normal, all of it runs through that old programming, even if you're not aware of it. That's kind of the point of an unconscious money story. You're not consciously aware of it. But that set point, that's real. And when your business tries to outgrow it, the old story quietly pulls you back through all sorts of self-sabotaging behaviors, undercharging, over-delivering, money that vanishes as quickly as it came in. So the next one's important. I want you to start realizing that the goal is not having enough. It's about aligning with abundance. And abundance is a naturally, constantly expanding state. When more than enough becomes your new normal, paying off your mortgage will feel as natural as tying your shoelaces. So much so that you'll forget to celebrate it, and I'll have to remind you. Stop. Let's just acknowledge where you've come from. Because whatever your current set point is, that feels completely and utterly normal. And you actually can't find your way back to the old one because it's physically not in your body anymore. Isn't that cool? Next takeaway is that money mindset and money management, they don't exist in isolation of each other. They can't. Real money confidence comes when you marry the magical with the practical. That's the magnetic money difference. It's about becoming the person who's comfortable with and capable of creating and holding wealth. That is a wealth mindset. And so this magnetic money core, that is the first part of this effectology method integration process. That's the core we're going to be integrating with the second core, which we'll talk about in the next episode. But if you listened to this episode and felt that little jolt of recognition, if you know your set point has been capping what your business is managing to deliver, then here's your next step. Doors to the VIP offer of Magnetic Money open again very soon. There's a wait list and you need to be on it. And this is where you get stepped through that 3-part process: rewiring your money story, resetting your alignment with abundance, and building the practical money systems to back it all up. It's the complete first core of this integration process. So make sure you get on the wait list so that you're notified as soon as doors open, because they will only be open for a very short time. The link is in the show notes below. And then in the next episode, we are going to have a little bit more of a deep dive into the practical side of the magnetic money code, because that new money story, it needs systems to back it up. I'm talking having your CEO finances sorted, making sure you're paying yourself properly, that you know how to create stability around irregular income, and that you know how to make your money work for you. The stuff nobody taught you that changes everything. Bye for now, gorgeous.